Guardians of the Red Planet. Chapter 1. The Call of Mars. The year was 2078 and humanity had firmly established its presence on Mars. Colonies dotted the red, dusty surface, and research stations were hubs of exploration and innovation. But with new horizons came new mysteries and dangers. At the Prometheus Research Station, Dr. Ilaravas, a leading astrophysicist, discovered a peculiar signal emanating from beneath Mars' surface. It wasn't static, a random noise. He carried a rhythmic pattern, almost like a message intrigued and unnerved. Alara ran countless analyses. The conclusion was undeniable. The signal was artificial. "Are we truly alone?" she whispered to herself, staring at the pulsating data on her monitor. When she reported the anomaly to Earth Command, the response was silence at first. But days later, a top-tier exploration team was assembled. The mission was classified, and at its helm was Commander Darius Kane, a celebrated astronaut and war veteran. Kane had led countless missions on Mars, from establishing colonies to fighting off the rogue AI uprisings during the early settlement era. He was a man of few words but unshakable resolve. When Darius landed at the Prometheus station, his presence filled the room. "Dr. Voss," he greeted Alara with a firm handshake. "I hear you found something unusual." Alara nodded, her brow furrowed. "It's more than unusual, Commander. It's something we've never encountered before." Chapter 2. Into the Depths. The signal's origin was traced to a location hundreds of kilometers from the station, deep within the Valles Marineris, the vast canyon system of Mars. The team prepared for the journey there, rover loaded with equipment, weapons, and supplies. "Do you really think this is alien?" asked Lieutenant Harper, a young but eager soldier assigned to the mission. The Laura adjusted her helmet as the crew suited up. "I don't know what to think, but whatever it is, it's not natural." The journey to the canyon was grueling. A Mars surface, though mapped and partially terraformed, remained treacherous. Dust storms whipped across the horizon, and the temperature fluctuated wildly. After 2 days of travel, they reached the entrance to a cavern. The signal was stronger here, pulsing like a heartbeat. "This is it," Alara said, her voice barely above a whisper. The team descended into the cavern. The deeper they went, the more otherworldly the environment became. Strange bioluminescent plants clung to the walls, casting an eerie green glow. "This isn't right," Darius muttered. "Mars shouldn't have life like this." At the cavern's heart they found it, a massive ancient structure buried beneath the surface. Its walls were smooth and metallic, etched with glowing symbols that shifted and changed when observed. "It's a ship," Alara gasped. Chapter 3. Awakening the Guardians. As they approached the structure, the signal intensified, resonating through their suits. Harper placed a hand on one of the glowing symbols, and the ground beneath them trembled. "Step back," Darius ordered, drawing his weapon, but it was too late. The symbols blazed to life, and the structure began to hum. The doorway appeared, and from within emerged 3 massive figures. The first was a towering gorilla-like creature, with alabaster fur and eyes that glowed like molten lava. Its muscles rippled with raw power, and it let out a deep, guttural roar that echoed through the cavern. The second was a wolf-like beast, its body covered in jagged crystalline armor. It prowled with predatory grace, its glowing eyes scanning the intruders. The third was a reptilian colossus, its spiked tail smashing into the cavern floor as it emerged. Its scales shimmered with iridescent colors, and its roar was deafening. "These aren't just creatures," Alara said, her voice trembling. "They're guardians of what?" Harper asked, his weapon aimed at the beasts. Before anyone could answer, the creatures turned their attention to the humans. The gorilla-like guardian slammed its fists into the ground, sending shockwaves through the cavern. The wolf bared its crystalline fangs, and the reptilian beast's spiked tail lashed out. "Hold your fire," Darius commanded. "We don't know what they want." The Lara stepped forward, her hands raised. "We're not here to harm you," she called out to her astonishment. The creatures paused. The gorilla-like guardian tilted its head, as if listening, then, with a sudden burst of speed, it leapt forward, landing near feet from Alara. Her breath caught in her throat as it lowered its massive head to meet her gaze in its glowing eyes. She saw something unexpected: intelligence. Chapter 4. The Forgotten Warning. The Guardians didn't attack. Instead, they seemed to study the humans, their glowing eyes flickering with a strange light. Laura felt a connection, as if the creatures were trying to communicate. "They're not hostile," she said. "At least not yet." Darius kept his weapon raised. "Not yet doesn't mean they won't be. Stay alert." As Alara examined the symbols on the structure, she began to piece together their meaning. It wasn't just a ship, it was a prison. These Guardians weren't protecting something. She realized they were being kept here, sealed away, but why? Harper asked, glancing nervously at the massive creatures. Before Alara could respond, the cavern began to shake violently. The structure's lights flickered, and a deafening roar echoed from deeper within. "There's something else here," Darius said, his voice gram. "Something bigger." From the shadows emerged a massive serpentine figure, its body covered in dark, chitinous armor. Its eyes burned with malevolence, and its presence was suffocating. "That's what they were guarding against," Alara whispered. The Guardians turned to face the new threat, their roars uniting in a defiant chorus. "We need to get out of here." Harper shouted. "No," Darius said firmly. "If we leave, this thing will reach the surface. We have to stop it here." Chapter 5. The final stand. What followed was a battle of titanic proportions. The Guardians clashed with a serpentine creature, their massive forms shaking the cavern with every strike. Darius and his team provided support, using their weapons to target the creature's weak points. Alara worked desperately to reactivate the prison's containment system, deciphering the shifting symbols under immense pressure. "I need more time," she shouted as the battle raged around her. "You got 2 minutes," Darius replied, firing his plasma rifle at the creature's glowing eyes. The Guardians fought valiantly, but the serpentine beast was relentless. It coiled around the gorilla like guardian, its jaws snapping inches from the creature's neck. "Alara," Darius yelled. "Almost there," she replied, her fingers flying over the controls. Finally, with a triumphant shout, she activated the system. The structure lit up, and a powerful energy field enveloped the cavern. The serpentine creature let out a final, ear-splitting roar as it was dragged back into the depths, the Guardians retreating into the shadows, as the prison sealed itself once more. Epilogue. A new understanding. As the dust settled, the team stood in silence, their hearts pounding. "We barely survived that," Harper said, his voice shaking. "But we did survive," Darius replied, while Lara looked at the sealed structure, a mix of awe and sorrow in her eyes. "We came here seeking answers. What we found was a warning." As they returned to the surface, the signal stopped, leaving behind only questions. What other secrets did Mars hold? And were they truly ready to face them? The Guardians remained a mystery, their purpose unclear, but one thing was certain. Humanity was no longer alone.